right now in Fort Hoima, where the Mpango events are taking place. The Democratic Party believes in traditional institutions. Some of you may not know, but our former Vice President, John Baptist Kawanga, was the chairman of the Coronation Committee for the Kabaka of Buganda. These are the institutions that were here before us. Now we talk of political parties and multipartyism, but it's these traditional institutions. And you can see some of the clashes in the matter of the late Professor Apollon Sibambi's estate. You can see tradition is clashing with the white man's law. I have no side in that debate. I'm on the side of the owner of the property. Who is unfortunately now departed. On the ruling by the Constitutional Court, which you all know about, police have been told in no uncertain terms that they cannot disperse rallies. I have since heard the police spokesperson announcing that they are going to ignore the ruling by the Constitutional Court. I would like to advise the police, in fact to warn them, that that amounts to contempt of court. I thought it was obvious, but it seems not to be obvious to the police that court orders are binding. I saw the spokesperson referring to other laws. Obviously, if they want us to also go to court to nullify those provisions of the Police Act, we will do so that all the laws that they are clinging to can be declared unconstitutional. That court judgment is a big relief to citizens of Uganda who are demanding justice, citizens of Uganda who want political change, and all the various groups. Why is it of interest to DP? Because DP is the chief custodian of the rule of law and constitutionalism in Uganda. There is no political party in Uganda that has stood more firmly in defense of constitutionalism and the rule of law than DP. Therefore, we wish to warn the police to go slow. They should not undermine the Constitutional Court, and they should abide by the Constitution, which is the mother of all laws. On Sunday, Heroes Day, I was taken aback, and later, when I saw the government spokesman parading 4 members of the Uganda People's Defense Forces and told the nation that those 4 men, 3 men and 1 woman, received medals for handling the Bamugemereire Commission professionally. I want you to know that President Museveni uses people. And I will not start with Justice Bamugemereire. I will start with Jennifer Musisi. Once upon a time, Jennifer Musisi was the darling of President Museveni. He praised her and told the whole world that she's doing a wonderful job. Recently, President Museveni started another story. He said she ate his money for nothing, that he was paying her a lot of money, she did nothing. President Museveni is extremely ungrateful to those who serve him. Now, that is a kind of meanness which is not good for a leader. So, it is in that context that we look at the medals awarded to these 4 soldiers. First, I know about medals. Medals are supposed to be accompanied by what they call a citation. I would really love to read the citation. Even a degree, when you get your certificate, it reads, so and so having fulfilled the requirements for the award of this degree is hereby awarded this degree at this congregation. I want to read something about everybody who has got a medal. I think these medals were given to spite Justice Bamugemereire, generally to tell her that she's nothing. I'm sure all the land grabbers in Uganda are celebrating, because those who block justice are being given medals. The conduct of those soldiers was extremely unprofessional. The professional way would have been for the soldiers to tell Justice Bamugemereire to wait while they call their supervisor. But to cock their guns and threaten to shoot Justice Bamugemereire was extremely unprofessional. It was an unwarranted response. These days, medals are awarded to anybody. I have seen some people receiving medals, and I don't know why they are receiving medals. Soon, President Museveni is going to give medals to his cows, the ones that give him the most milk. He will just parade some cows one of these days and say, these ones have been giving me maybe 40 liters every day, therefore they should get a medal. Some of us went up to the bushes of Garamba in Congo in pursuit of peace. I don't think we are even on the long list of those to receive medals, let alone the short list. So, President Museveni has devalued the medals so much. It is as devalued as the title honorable. You know, even the LC3 councillor of my place is honorable. Everybody is honorable. So I advise the MPs that when you introduce yourselves, you introduce somebody as honorable and you add MP. Otherwise, people may think you're a councillor. I want to interest you journalists to research how many medalists we have in Uganda. Very soon, all of us may be medalists. I understand there's a committee that is supposed to vet the award of medals. I understand the public are also supposed to nominate. I don't think the committee is following strictly the provisions of the regulations relating to the awards of medals. I think the medals have been extremely politicized. The medals are being awarded in a partisan manner and with goals to get political support by President Museveni. These are our comments on the state of the nation. First of all, in terms of content, there was no ground-shaking policy pronouncement. Like I said last week, it was like leftovers warmed in a microwave oven. To us, as the Democratic Party, the state of the nation should deal with what makes Ugandans anxious. I don't think Ugandans stay awake at night because we don't have enough electricity coming from the dams. I don't think Ugandans stay awake because of less stomach. In terms of investing in human capital, the state of the nation was not about citizens. It was about promoting projects which in any case are used as avenues for corruption. For every highway being built, the kickbacks are enormous to continue supporting the friends of the regime. For every bridge, for every dam, there are kickbacks. The statement completely ignored the tension we have with our southern neighbors of Rwanda. That suspicion is extremely unhealthy. The statement did not talk about the political question of transition. So, though the statement was long, I think it went up to almost 4 hours. I have got to say on behalf of DP that Uganda still suffers from a low expectation syndrome. When will Ugandans have high expectations of their leaders? Not much was expected and not much was delivered. The mood in the house was live and let live. So, the president delivered a speech which was basically about self-congratulation. It reminded me about the story in Chinua Achebe's book about the lizard that fell off the tall Iroko tree and being surprised that it did not die and looked around for applause. Seeing no applause, the lizard proceeded to nod enthusiastically in self-praise. So, the story goes on to say that from that day onwards, the lizard became so conceited and it thinks it is so heavy that even when it is climbing a tree which is 200 times its size, it does a form of press-up to determine whether the tree is sturdy enough to carry its true weight. As the Democratic Party, these are the current issues which we call national anxieties. To be a revolution about politics. It is going to be a clash between the haves and have-nots. In Uganda today, we have 3 classes of people. We have the have-nots at the bottom, and they are the vast majority. We have the haves at the top. Then we have in the middle those we call have little, want more. The gap between the haves and have-nots is evident. Therefore, the revolution in Uganda is not going to be about politics. It is going to be about economics. And none of the programs that President Museveni talked about is going to close the gap between the rich and the poor. Therefore, his optimism, in our opinion, is misplaced. The Ugandans who are wallowing in poverty must have been shocked by President Museveni's misplaced optimism. Why do we have those economic issues? So, the bad politics, the failure of leadership is what is responsible for the policies that are creating inequality. Who is to blame? It is those who have the mandate. That is the NRM. They have the mandate to make things happen. In the NRM, we have individuals and groups that have been entrusted with political power. As expected, the State of the Nation address skirted around the issue of governance, which is the second anxiety we have. It skirted around the issue of governance without acknowledging the political logjam we have in Uganda today, with a government devoid of legitimacy, being led by a person whose victory is still in question. Like he said in the previous address, he's basically telling Ugandans that his long stay in power is good for Ugandans. As DP, we think, given how long President Museveni has been in power, his performance is dismal. Previously, President Museveni has vowed that by next year, 2020, Uganda will be a middle-income country. So let us unpack what a middle-income country is. Because many people say the word, but they don't know what it is. The term middle income is based on the so-called Atlas method that the World Bank uses to rank the economy of countries. Low-income countries, where Uganda falls, have an average gross national income per capita of $1,045 or less. Middle-income countries have a gross national income per capita of between $1,045 and $12,736. That's according to the experts. Now, the middle-income countries are further subdivided into lower middle-income and upper middle-income countries. Lower middle-income countries have a gross national income per capita of between $1,046 and $4,125. The upper middle-income countries have per capita of between $4,126 and $12,735. And the high-income countries have income per capita above that. But in these figures, a lot is also hidden. Assuming we are 40 people in this room, and 5 people have a total of maybe 4 billion, and others have far less. When they say per capita, it means even the billions of the well-to-do will be distributed equally among all of us. So it will be said that on average, the average income in this room is probably 50 million. Obviously, that would be a lie. So we use a different measurement, which we call purchasing power parity. I want to ask the government of Uganda to stop using income per capita. I want the government of Uganda to use purchasing power parity. How many Ugandans can afford what they need? That is the essence of economics, because it is about your pocket. Even Bill Gates' money is counted among the money of the Americans. But the poor Americans are not aware of that. On behalf of DP, I want to say that when we look at the state of our economy, the absurd proclamation that Uganda will be a middle-income country by next year is a political hoax. It is a deception. It is just gimmickry. Our balance of trade is very low. It means we still import more than we export. It is actually in the negative. The global business confidence in Uganda is only 54%. We have very high military expenditure. You have seen it in the budget. We have high inflation, which right now is hovering at about 9 to 10%. You know what I'm talking about, how much you pay for fuel. And our growth is not as high as it should be. Therefore, it is our opinion that the ambition of attaining middle-income status under the current NRM economic framework is a pathetic pipe dream that no one can take seriously. All these problems are coupled with an unsustainably high external debt, which costs Uganda a lot of money to service. Then there is the lack of fiscal discipline, unattractive wages that fuel brain drain, high unemployment, which is hovering at 70%, and runaway corruption. These are the problems that need solutions from a national leader. And I didn't hear any solutions. All I heard was praise. Each time he mentioned a road in a village of an MP, they got applause. Each time he mentioned planned roads, and there are roads that he has been mentioning for the last 4 years. So perhaps the MPs are not even interested. Let me say something about corruption, because the problems I've mentioned, the high indebtedness, the unemployment, low exports, corruption, these are the factors that are undermining our efforts to close the gap between the rich and the poor. President Museveni says there will never be looting in Uganda. I can tell you, if there is political change, there will be looting in Uganda. I don't have to be a prophet, but people are going to storm the homes of whoever they think have been stealing from them to balance the equation of wealth. The strategy that we need is to plug the leakages that I have mentioned. When it comes to corruption, I have said here before that Museveni's strategy is akin to one trying to treat a cancer using Vaseline. The truth is, President Museveni will not win the war against corruption unless he becomes born again and offers leadership by example. President Museveni needs moral rescue. That is why he talks about corruption, which I understand is even in State House. I understand people have to pay to see President Museveni. I'm told the average is about $50,000 to shake his hand, to take photos. So the corruption is around him. You cannot exhort your flock to drink water while you gorge yourself on wine. Sooner or later, the flock will follow your bad example. Therefore, the fight against corruption requires a level of moral authority that President Museveni at the moment lacks. He cannot point out the splinter in the eyes of his followers because he has a log in his eyes. I have said before, fish rots from the head. Today, I wish to advise President Museveni again that when you are sweeping a staircase, you start from the top. Let him start from himself and those closest to him, then move downwards. Fighting corruption is the one thing in which the bottom-up approach cannot work, because the bottleneck in the war against corruption is usually at the top. Our conclusion. We need better oversight of our economy. Unfortunately, Parliament is failing us. You heard the Speaker herself lamenting that now members of Parliament cut deals with government departments so that they write mild reports. So we propose, usually the government says we only criticize. These are some proposals we are giving. We need better consumer protection in Uganda. A lot of bogus goods come into our country because of lack of oversight. To generate revenue and boost tax fairness, we must reduce the rate at which high-income taxpayers get tax relief. We are calling for tax relief to the poorer people. For instance, the Democratic Party would remove VAT on water and electricity. Currently, the people who get tax relief, fortunately, you journalists have the list. These people got big bonuses. They have been exempted from taxes. We also propose, as DP, that the investment in infrastructure, like bridges, dams, should create local jobs. Currently, the 40% local content required is not being adhered to. I have found Chinese people driving lorries in Gulu as they build the roads. And I wonder whether we don't have lorry drivers in Uganda. We call upon the government to invest in human capital and to expand access to what we call polytechnic education. Ugandans must be taught skills, how to make things that are on demand. We also believe that the displacement of people from their land grabbing in places such as Apa, under the guise of wildlife protection, should be condemned. As you know, the definition of wealth. Wealth means ownership of the productive economic elements, which means land and companies. We don't own most of the companies in Uganda. I'm sure all of us bank in banks that are not Ugandan owned. The wealthy get an increased share of our productivity. Therefore, the direction of economic growth favors the wealthy as opposed to the poor. That gives them increased influence, both economic and political. And it empowers them to avoid accountability. While those without wealth and power are the ones who are forced to account. The hawkers are chased around by KCCA every day, but those are dodging taxes in industrial area are not touched. These are issues that the Democratic Party, the Party of Truth and Justice, holds very, very dear. We also believe that the strongest point the NRM had, namely security, at least in most parts of Uganda, has degenerated. So, we do not believe what President Museveni says, that the country is now secure. Crime grows, kidnaps, gruesome murders are on the increase. And yet, that has been the signature of Museveni's government. We expect the government to integrate the agriculture sector by supporting farmers. We have called before, and we repeat our call, that we need an agro-industrial bank that gives loans at a concessional rate so that farmers can add value. Right now, value addition is just kind of wolokoso. I do recall that at one occasion when President Museveni was talking about skilling the youth, he promised that he would give equipment and startup capital for the young people after their training. These promises have not been kept. And yet President Museveni is making other promises. So he's now like a man who starts with a deep hole. To fill the hole, he digs another hole to fill this one. Still he remains with the hole. So every State of the Nation address is an exercise in digging a hole to fill a previous hole. I welcome questions in English, after which I'll give a summary in Luganda. I thought President Museveni would tell us who killed Kaira. To us, that is more important than a medal. He is a suspect in the murder of Andrew Lutakome Kaira. And that medal cannot replace Andrew Kaira. Obviously, Andrew Kaira richly deserves medals. There's no question about that. But his right to life was violated under the watch of President Museveni. So we are still waiting for President Museveni to tell us who killed Andrew Kaira. So next time you meet him, say, I was at a DP press conference and they told me to ask you to tell them who killed Andrew Kaira. That is what we are most interested in. That medal is an expression of guilt. You know, even in funerals, the most guilty people are the most generous. Concerning the former executive director of, I think Jennifer Musisi tried her best in very difficult circumstances to build a system in KCCA. Now, I tell you this as somebody who has ever led a local government. I see many of you are praising Gulu. It did not happen because of Kampala. It did not happen because of State House. It happened because we love our home. So I think Jennifer Musisi tried to tell the city dwellers, first of all, to love the city. The way I see people behave in the city, I don't think we love our city. Somebody eats bogoya and just throws. Somebody takes mineral water, throws in the trench. Surely, if you don't love your city, it is like your home. Imagine if you don't sweep your house for 2 months. Soon cockroaches and rats are going to become non-paying tenants. I can say 3 things Jennifer Musisi tried to do. Number one, system building. Number two, she rebranded KCCA. And number three, she implemented impressive infrastructure projects in the city. Definitely, she left Kampala better than she found it. So I do not know what marking scheme President Museveni was using. Was Kampala better before she came, or did it become better because of her? But President Museveni lost politically because of some of the projects. But there's no city in the world where the government is popular. Even if I became president tomorrow, I'm sure within 2 years, the base of opposition will be in Kampala and urban areas. Because urban areas want rapid change. So, Jennifer Musisi will always be remembered for leaving Kampala better than she found it. President Museveni, including claiming to have been an ardent member of DP. I always take those statements as a kind of joke anyway. I think it is just a bit of comedy. DP was founded in 1954. So, who was there before? Museveni or DP? But if he is meaning that he has depended a lot on DP, perhaps he's right. I have said here before that when he took over government in 1986, he didn't have people. It is the DP leaders who formed the core of his government. When they came up with a budget, it was a one-page budget. It was like, you know, a budget for, even Okwanjula can have more than one page. Or graduation. So it is the Democratic Party's Professor Ponciano Mulema who taught them how to write a budget. So Museveni's statement is fraudulent. It is him who has needed DP more than DP needing him. But I have talked to some elders and they don't actually remember him as an active member of DP. Naturally, I'm not his age mate, so I don't remember him. In 1970, when he left, I was still about 6 years old. So I wasn't yet old enough to know. Maybe he was a supporter, but many of the people I've talked to don't remember him. He appears not to have made a mark. But I also think he has a vendetta against DP because he wanted to be made a leader in DP in 1980. But he was not of the quality that DP desires. DP is a high-quality party. There are some people who simply don't qualify to belong to DP. And we are happy to keep it that way. Now, on his statement that you can do things even when in opposition, let me tell you, the fact that you are in opposition does not mean you stop being a citizen. We are all citizens, whether we are in opposition or in government. Therefore, the reason why the opposition participates in governance of the country is to ensure that they serve the people who they represent. As chairman of Gulu, I belong to the opposition. But I knew it was my right to demand resources from the central government. These resources don't belong to President Museveni. When we share a copy of the speech I delivered at the IPOD summit, you'll hear how I challenged him for reducing the whole country to begging. Everybody has to beg one man. It doesn't matter who. Now, we have two sides in parliament. The opposition works for those they represent. As a matter of fact, many of our ideas are stolen by Museveni. So in a way, the government needs the opposition more than the opposition needs the government. The example that he gave, and he keeps repeating it, is that he traveled from Chiruhura and came here and got permission from the Inspector General of Police to go and fundraise for a church project. Now, that one has nothing to do with being opposition. If I want to get a passport, must the government say, even though you are in opposition, we are giving you a passport? It is not a favor. That's the point we want to make as the Democratic Party. That the opposition are the brakes of the government. The opposition are the speed governors. Lastly, what kind of government can create conditions for the opposition to do what President Museveni is proposing? The kind of government he's leading is actually hostile to the opposition. He's actively hostile to the opposition. So, even if we wanted to do a lot from the opposition, our efforts are undermined because of the hostile political environment. So I send the ball back to President Museveni's court to make the environment less toxic and less hostile. Then we can still do a lot when we are in opposition. I agree that opposition leaders should not wait until they're in government to serve their people. In Mexico, there was a party that led for 71 years. I'm sure most of those who were alive at the time the party started ruling had died by the time the party was defeated in elections. But as politicians, we represent citizens. And the majority of Ugandans are neither government, NRM, nor opposition. The majority of citizens are simply Ugandan citizens, and we serve them as such. So nobody should start drawing lines. I don't even think all the political parties combined have 3 million members. I don't think so. We would even be lucky to have 2 million registered members. So the majority of Ugandans don't belong to any political party. And it is important that we should serve them. And all the people are people of Uganda. So President Museveni should not draw a line by saying, you can serve your people even when you are in government. Even his people are my people. And even my people are his people. Why is he now saying, these are your people as opposition, and then these ones are his people? It is that kind of politics which promotes nepotism and which may lead to him ending very badly when his time to go comes. I want to summarize what I said. I've not had a lot of political noise in KCCA. At least the Lord Mayor seemed to have been at his happiest during this period when the acting ED has been in office. So I think the stress level at KCCA was remarkably reduced. Perhaps because Engineer Chitaka is not so combative. I think he's more conciliatory in his approach, and probably has been giving the politicians in KCCA their due respect. While on the other side, probably Jennifer Musi thought the political leaders were just an inconvenience she had to put up with. Those are my off-the-cuff thoughts, but you know, you can get me into trouble with very important DP members if you